Dearest Bar, let me adjust your pillows.
Robert, I can see our whole life together from that very first letter.
This is the month Mother died, 1828. Since then, Papa demands that all of us, my 2 sisters and 8 brothers, must all live together under one roof. Always. We must never ever marry. Never. But marriage has never been high up as my ideal. From an early age, I have dedicated myself to poetry. And for many years, I have had some incapacitating illness of the lungs, which no doctor can accurately diagnose or successfully treat. Such discomfort. Opium, my only relief. So, for the last 5 years, I have rarely left this room. Up the stairs and at the back of our 4-story house here at 50 Wimpole Street, London. But now, in 1845, when I am 38 years old, I receive a letter from the young poet Robert Browning, whose poetry I have admired for several years. I love your verses with all my heart, dear Miss Barrett. But in addressing myself to you, your own self, and for the first time, my feeling rises altogether. I do, as I say, love these books with all my heart, and I love you too. Many devotees of my poetry, having never met or even seen me, have sent such words of ardent devotion, which I simply dismiss as misplaced adoration. And I love you too. Several years ago, my cousin, Mr. Kenyon, did propose to introduce to my sofa side Mr. Browning. I was pleased at the thought of his wishing it. His actually coming, no. After 4 months of our frequent correspondence, I finally give in to his pleas to visit me. You are generous and impetuous, Mr. Browning. That I can see and feel. Mr. Browning now comes once a week for an hour or so. As long as I live, and to the last moment of my life, I shall remember, with an emotion that cannot change, all the genuine interest and feeling Mr. Browning spends on me. At first, I think The feeling on his part is a mere generous impulse, likely to expend itself. He is 6 years younger than I. But after several months, it affects me very deeply, more than I dare attempt to say. He pleads with me, "Make my life yours, Pa." I say, "You are wasting your best feelings on me, emptying your water gourds into the sand. What a great heap of grief lies in me." It was 7 years ago. Dr. Chambers said that I could not live the winter in London, so I was sent down to Torquay, to my aunt there. And my eldest brother Edward, whom I loved so, was sent to take me and my sisters there and return. When the time came for him to leave me, I could not drive back the tears. My aunt kissed them away and said she would write Papa to tell him he would break my heart if he persisted in calling away my brother. Papa's answer, burnt into me as with fire it is, was that he did not refuse to suspend his purpose, but that he considered it to be very wrong in me to accept such a thing. So there was no separation then. Month after month passed. Sometimes I was better, sometimes worse. Once, my dear brother held my hand. How I remember. And said he loved me better than them all, and he would not leave me until I was well. How I remember that. 10 days from that day, he left the shore in his small boat, a day of sailing with friends. The sun shone. There was no wind. The sea beneath our windows was like paper for smoothness, like paper. One by one, the boats returned. My sisters drew the curtains back so that I might see for myself how smooth the sea was. Like paper. For 3 days we waited, and I hoped while I could. Oh, the awful agony of those 3 days! I could not speak or shed a tear, but lay for months half conscious with a wandering mind. And how natural it has been for me to loathe living. The cause is not my illness. I've never said so much to another living being. Only Mr. Browning. Papa has been patient with me through the tedious trial of my illness. He never reproached me, as he might have done, never once said to me then or since that if it had not been for me, his eldest son would not have died. He never did. Oh, behind all those patriarchal ideas of governing grown children in the way they must go, there never was a truer affection in a father's heart. He loves us all, through and through, and I, for one, love him. Mr. Browning first wrote to me in August. It is now January. Let me say now that I love you from my soul and give you my life, so much of it as you will take. If Papa knew that he has written to me so, and that I have answered him, he would not forgive me at the end of 10 years. With the cold weather approaching, my doctor strongly advises me to spend this winter in a warmer climate. But Papa accuses me of securing a personal advantage in my requesting to go to Italy. Robert says that I am enslaved, and that he could free me. He would marry me now and would be no more than one of my brothers. No more. So he could simply be by my side for an hour every day, not just once a week, and not secretly. I had done living, I thought, when he came and sought me out. That he should care at all for me has been a matter of unaffected wonder to me, from the first hour until now. Papa makes it clear to me. You might go to Italy if you please, but going would be under my heaviest displeasure. The bitterest fact of all is that I had believed Papa to have loved me more than he obviously does. I tell Robert that if God should free me from this trailing chain of weakness, that I will then be to him whatever he shall choose. Friend, or more than friend. Again, my ever dearest Robert writes, "See, love, a year is gone by. You are mine, I am yours. But this living without you is too tormenting. Imagine for my sake, sweet, that we are married, and my arms are around you, and my face touches yours. So begin thinking. Now that your health and strength improve, begin thinking about this spring for our new life, together in Italy. In the time of fine weather, and if I am not ill, Robert shall decide when we leave for Italy. He is all to me. I am living for him now. By June, my strength is greatly improving. One night, when everyone is at dinner, I put on my bonnet and call my cocker spaniel, Flash! And we walk downstairs into the street, all alone. That is something great. And with just Flash, I walk there, up and down in glorious independence. But one night, Papa comes into my room at about 7, as he often does. I am relaxing in my white dressing gown. Has this been your costume since the morning? No, Papa, only just now. It appears that that man has been with you the whole day. But, Papa, Mr. Browning several times meant to leave, but the rain would not let him. There the questioning ends, but it takes my breath away. What is left of it from such terror and fear? Robert, what a desperate game we are playing. How I should look and sleep as well as I do is a miracle, or would be, if love were not the deepest and strongest thing of all. I am happier now than I ever was before. I am Robert's already, not Papa's. But I hear terrible news. An edict has gone out. Papa needs our home empty for a month. Is he finally becoming suspicious? Robert thinks so. I am not so sure. Papa would never believe I would have the courage to leave him. Elizabeth, I've sent your brother George to find a house for the family out of London. There's much to do in painting and repairing here in Wimpole Street. The family is to go and not delay. I write to Robert to tell him this terrible turn of events. It seems quite too sudden for us to set out on our Italian adventure now. He immediately writes to me. This conduct of your father's is quite characteristic. If you do go next Monday, our marriage will be impossible for another year. The misery. We must be married directly and go to Italy. I will go for a license today, and we can be married this Saturday. I pray Robert keeps himself calm. I know I shall not fail him. Of the many women who stood where I stand now, in Marylebone Church, not one of them, not one, has had reasons strong as mine for an absolute trust and devotion toward the man she married. Not one. Now no one can put us asunder. I do so hate to have to take off the ring, but I have such a morbid fear of exciting suspicion. My sisters already think me the bravest one of all of us, just being engaged. But they cannot yet know that Robert and I are married. Papa would never forgive them. And I am paralyzed when I think of having to write such words as, Papa, I am married. I hope you will not be too displeased. He will be angry. He will cast me off. But I love him. He is my father. Forgive me, I would plead, for the sake of your daughter you once loved. On Thursday, 5 days since I became Mrs. Browning, it is announced the departure from Wimpole Street will take place on Monday. But the house is 6 miles from the nearest railroad. I asked Robert what he would have me do. We must leave at once, he says, this Saturday. He goes immediately to take out a passport for us. Wilson, prepare my luggage and yours. Wilson has been perfect to me, and I, calling her timid, I begin to think none are so bold as the timid when they are roused. Robert arranges for a boat leaving the Royal Pier at Southampton at 9 o'clock Saturday evening. On Friday, he writes, my ever dearest, dearest, one struggle more, my beloved, depend on me. Now I shall have only my ever dearest Robert to love me. So, on Saturday afternoon, with Wilson and Flush by my side, I descend the stairs while my family is in the dining room at their noonday meal. And ever so quietly, I close the door of 50 Wimpole Street behind me. It's 3:30. We walk down a sunny Wimpole Street and turn on to Marylebone. Wilson, hurry! I see him waiting at Hobson's bookshop. I feel faint and stagger forward as my husband swoops me up into the cab. Am I in a dream from which I shall awake, or am I truly defying Papa and fleeing with Robert to Italy? Then dim and confusion, people rushing. The great grinding thing appears. Shh, Flushy, don't bark. I am frightened too. Robert helps me into the railway carriage. Wilson lifts and Flush and steps aboard. The train slowly rolls forward, gaining speed on our way to the docks at Southampton. There, our ferry moves into the night and on to the open sea. Wilson is twice as frightened as I. In our small cabin, we loosen our stays and pray for our safety. Up, down, side to side, over and over again. So rough the sea becomes. Oh, Papa, please forgive me. I am so sorry to hurt you. Please, Papa. John, land, Wilson, land. Le Havre. We disembark, exhausted by the terrifying scene and our sorrow. I must remember, Robert too has left behind his dear family. He insists we rest before continuing to Rouen by diligence. My fatigue, of course, is great, but Robert's tender love and care are greater. We drink coffee to revive ourselves. As night falls, Robert hires a diligence to take us to Rouen. But I am still feverish. I begin to see all as in a vision, and to doubt whether I am in or out of body. I see now 5 horses, no, 7, all looking wild and lovely. Some of them white, some brown, black too. Their manes leaping as they gallop. The white rain is drifting down over their heads. Such a fantastic scene it is in the morning.
Brian!
It is 1 a.m. The French customs official is telling Robert that our baggage must go immediately to Paris. Robert, we cannot stay the night as planned. What is to be done? Foreign faces stare in disbelief as my husband carries me to the Rouen Hotel. We have coffee, rest 20 minutes, then again past those foreign faces, still staring in disbelief. Robert places me in the coupe of our diligence, which is then placed on the railway, and we roll on toward Paris in the moonlight. It's 10 a.m. My dear husband carries me up the stairs of Hotel Messagerie to our room. I am barely conscious. My mind wanders back to Wimpole Street. I see the faces of my family. I hear Robert say he's going to fetch my good friend, Mrs. Jameson, who is staying at a nearby hotel. But I see Papa's angry face. I am so ashamed, yet happy. Mrs. Jameson, she will be here soon. I must be presentable. And the room. You wild creature! Let the world say what it pleases. I shall dance for joy, my dear, dear friends. She embraces me. This is the first test of the world's opinion of us and our marriage. For over a year, Robert came to my room there in Wimpole Street, away from public gaze and gossip. Mrs. Jameson insists we stay at a quiet hotel for a week so I may regain my strength. But I still have this feverish desire to go on and on and on, as if there's to be neither peace nor health till I am beyond the Alps. But I do agree to rest a few days, for Robert's sake. Dearest, you look exhausted, arranging every aspect of our travels. carrying me, cradling me. You have scarcely eaten anything for 3 weeks. I know this. For the first time in 3 days, he agrees to leave my side. Just for a few hours. Dearest, please. With Robert's constant love and tenderness, I slowly recover from our arduous journey. I am able to walk along the Seine on his arm and even dine at restaurants. The first time I have ever done so. We do go once to the Louvre, with Mrs. Jameson on one side of me and Robert on the other. Oh, we see some divine Raphaels. Each night, my handsome husband and I watch the stars rise over the high Paris houses, tell each other childish, happy things, and make schemes for our future poetic works. How God has blessed me after all the trials of my life. Tonight, as usual, Wilson brushes my hair and helps me prepare for bed. After she leaves, there is a gentle knock on the bedroom door. I was a woman, now a wife. Robert, dread sweeps over me when I think of the letters that await at Orléans. Yes, I know. We must go. Our diligence moves slowly out of Paris, and I to the hour of my death warrant. Noisy, dusty, jolting is our journey, but Robert chats in his sunshiny and captivating manner. He thinks of everybody's feelings. He's witty, and wise, and foolish in the right place. He charms cross old women in our diligence who cry out, Mais madame, mes jambes, mes jambes! He talks Latin to the priest and forgets nothing and nobody except himself. He is brilliant, and I am dull, socially speaking. Especially now, thrown out of all my habits of solitude. I still hear Papa's angry voice. In our hotel room, Robert brings me the letters. He wants to sit with me while I read them, but I will not let him. I can hardly catch my breath, but I must meet this agony alone. Father has cast me out of the family. I no longer exist for him. He believes I married for genius. You have sold your soul for mere genius. My brother George believes Robert married for money. But we know we married for naught except for love's sake only. Love simple, which after all is love proper, an unreasonable instinct, an accident, falling, as is often said. Poor Henrietta. So angry hearing the news of my marriage, Papa yells at my dear, dear sister. She is no longer the purest woman I ever knew. Earthly love. It has interfered with the view of heaven. But I have found my angel, and we wish to live a quiet, simple, natural life. To write poems and read books and try to live, not in vain, and not for vanities. Robert, Papa has cast me out, but Henrietta and Arabelle are filled with love for us both. Such balm for my heart. With tears in his eyes, Robert promises to win back for me, with God's help, the affections of those I have angered. My husband nurses me, cares for me, loves me, and I see and feel that I have in my hands the power to make him happy. Why, he likes nothing better than to draw his chair next to me and let the time slip away. Oh, certainly, we are apt to talk nonsense, and are at times quite merry. He amuses me and makes me laugh till I refuse to laugh any more, Robert. You are charming me into thinking about you, and not my sad thoughts. And Wilson quite agrees.
Well, well, well. I never saw a man like Mr. Browning in my life.
Wilson, we both applaud her. So devoted to us both now, quite active on our behalf. Wilson is not even scared by the French shopkeeper. She has learned to ask for and receive coffee and bread and butter and flush. You've forgotten your early jealousy at Winkle Street, biting Robert on the leg. Twice. No, you behave perfectly now, don't you, Flushy? But not at the Rouen rail station when the official insisted. Ah! Non, non, madame! Madame, votre chien est dans un boîte de voyage. Allez, allez! Did the naughty men take it away? Poor Flush. Papa's angry voice, I still hear it. Wilson, do you know he's turned all my books out of my room and put them in storage? And will charge me the rental fee. Each day my pulse races, but each night Robert's tender embrace helped me to forget. Today we are on the daily steamer, which professes to descend the Rhone to Avignon in 7 hours. Oh, we have eagerly anticipated a glimpse of the sunny south, which is to give me relief from the fog and cold of London winters. Instead, we watch through the dirty windows of a hot, crowded cabin. Rain, pouring in torrents, Robert. Incessant rain. Finally, after 11 hours, we disembark at dusk, exhausted. The usually exuberant Flush and the indomitable Wilson are dispirited too. Tomorrow, I will not stir from this hotel room. I must rest and gain my strength for our trip to Vaucluse. On a sunny, beautiful day, we walk out of the village of Vaucluse, along the river Saule, to Fontaine de Vaucluse. The blue-green water of the grotto stands deep and still and grand, below a majestic wall of rock, and then falls and foams over rocks into the channel of the river Saule, winding down the narrow valley through cypresses and olive trees. I know not why, but without a word I make my way over the foaming water. The rocks are slippery, and the spray is flying up from all sides. "Are you losing your senses?" shouts Robert. He follows me, helps me from slipping, and we both sit on a rock amidst the spray, watching the water boiling and churning around us. Robert presses me close to his heart and whispers, "Our love was predestined, you know, from the beginning. No two persons could have one soul between them so much as we. And I too now understand. I recall, not so many months ago, in the solitude of my room there in 50 Wimpole Street, fearing my health and my father, how a mystic shape did move behind me and drew me backward by the hair. And a voice said in mastery while I strode, "Guess now who holds thee?" "Death," I said. But there, as here, the silver answer rings, not death, but love. Here in Pisa, each day Robert sits by me in his chair, and each night lies by me in our bed. I write to my sister Arabelle. My husband is perfect in every way. I do not believe there can be another husband like mine. Such perpetual tenderness. Indeed, all women might not like the excess. I do sleep admirably. I am taking less morphine, and Robert says I have filled out remarkably. Imagine that. Each day we are out walking. The golden oranges look at us over the walls, and when I am tired, we sit down on a stone to watch lizards. We love going to the seashore, climbing up into the mountains, even saying hello to the donkeys descending in line laden with firewood. But Pisa, so dull. Robert and I must amuse ourselves by watching the many funerals that pass our window. The monks chant in a line, carrying torches, and on the bier comes the corpse. At first, we both wished to see the sight, but the horror grows stronger for me. "Oh, dearest, don't go to the window." But Robert can't stop himself. Chanting, the sound of death itself. For some reason, tonight, the sound begins to make me feel faint, almost breathless. "Robert, I've just caught cold, nothing more." "Robert, do not go for Dr. Cook, please." When Robert is allowed to see me, he throws himself down on the bed in a passion of tears, so fearful he was of losing me. Dearest, don't fret. Wilson was with me through the whole ordeal. And Dr. Cook, Robert, he has assured me morphine was not the cause of this, of my miscarriage. But blessed with another opportunity, I shall indeed abstain, I promise you. No, no, my darling, you were right. I should have allowed you to go for Dr. Cook 6 weeks ago. In April, we moved to Florence, cheaper than Pisa, full of life, and far more beautiful. We leased rooms in Casa Guidi, a palazzo on the south side of the Arno, near Ponte Vecchio. There one evening, out on our nightly stroll, we view a huge crowd celebrating the spectacular fireworks. The first step for the unification of Italy into a nation. Oh, I have become passionately interested in the Italian struggle for freedom. Freedom from foreign domination. The very thought of these foreign powers calling themselves protectors. Who do they think they are protecting? Certainly not the Italians. And thank God, the Italians are finally rebelling. Later that evening, out on a walk with Annunziata, Flush chases after a dog into a crowd. Upstairs comes Annunziata. Signora! E niente, signora, tornerà presto, eh? But hours pass, and no Flush. It grows darker and darker. I can scarcely keep the tears from my eyes. Robert goes round to Piazza Pitti, but who can see a dog in a crowd? The porter does agree to leave open the gate till 12 o'clock. Grazie, grazie mille. Through the night, I can hardly bear my sadness. In the morning, a dash is made against the door. Flush! Oh, Flushy! So tired. So dirty. Quite disgraceful, chastises Robert, for a respectable dog like that. Out all night. No, don't listen to such talk, Flushy. You are a gentleman, aren't you? The great crowd just confused you. In September, Robert and I celebrate our 2nd anniversary. But the following March, I again begin suffering pains. For over 21 hours, I resist crying out or shedding a tear. Such sharp, sharp pains. Again, Wilson is by my side, my sisters being so very far away. Thank you, Wilson. Finally, in the middle of the night at 2:15 a.m., I hear our son's strong, healthy voice. I am as happy as a human creature can be, but refuse to look at baby until Robert places him in my arms. Such strong, beautiful, tiny little fingers he has. I suggest, Robert, we call him Robert Wiedemann Browning, in honor of your mother's family name. Oh, I do so wish there was a way to show off our son to my sisters. Such a fat, rosy, lively little baby he is. The wet nurse's plump cheeks overflow her neck as she bends over our son to provide the abundance of nourishment. I cannot. But everyone cooing over bundle in white shawl drives Flush to dramatic barking and then prolonged sulks. Flushy, what are you doing under there? Robert adores our son and helps bathe him each morning. But he has been shielded from a terrible shock. His sister Sariana withheld writing until I had safely delivered. His beloved mother is dead. She died just 9 days after his son was born. Robert clings to me in his sorrow. I am the strong one now. If I leave the room, he can only sit and weep. Even holding our child in his arms does not lift his depression. And I have the greatest difficulty persuading him to leave Florence for the hot summer months. Finally, I announce, baby and I cannot bear the heat. We must and we will go away, Robert. We rent a house high in the mountains next to a rushing stream. I encourage Robert, climb the hills, lose yourself in the forests. And often I am able to climb the hills with him. My health so improved since leaving London. On the starry moonlit nights, we sit alone by the waterfall. There is no need to talk. Our love and respect for one another only deepen and make him feel that love survives death and is eternal. Oh, we have our disagreements. We argue about Italian politics, about seances, table rapping. He once threatens to throw a spiritualist, a well-known spiritualist, down the stairs, so agitated he becomes. We also differ about how to dress and raise our boy. I believe our baby should have total freedom and delight in his uninhibited acrobatics on the floor. Ooh. When he bangs his head, Robert cries out, I can't trust you with our son. Robert, babies' heads are not made of Venetian glass, are they? When we return from our summer in the mountains, back to our life in Florence, I again miscarry, my fourth in 4 years. I bleed so profusely that in order to save my life, Dr. Harding packs my body in ice for 2 days and 2 nights. Robert sits by me. The hemorrhaging does stop, but the doctor warns me. Mrs. Browning, for the sake of your health, please, no more pregnancies. Dashing my great hope for a daughter. By summer, I do recover, and now with improved finances, we are able to travel to Paris and then to England to visit our families. It has been 5 years. Oh, I joyfully reunite with Henrietta and Arabelle. My brothers are somewhat reconciled to my marrying Robert, and today I receive a letter from Papa. And a neatly wrapped packet. My dear husband wrote him, begging him to forgive me and to see his beautiful grandson. A very unsparing letter. All my letters, begging his forgiveness. Robert, not one is opened. When we returned to our life in Florence, I miss terribly the company of my sisters. I write often, tell them all the news of my life here, and beg to hear all the details of theirs, especially about Papa's health. June 21st, 1854. Dearest Arabelle, I have been saddened much these last days. Our dear Flush is dead. He died quietly. He was old, you know, 14 years. He wheezed a great deal and had developed an old dog smell, making his presence in the drawing room difficult. But in spite of it all, it has been quite a shock to me and a sadness. Remember, Arabelle, what a comfort Flush was to me during those dark days of my life before Robert. Such devotion. July 11th, 1855. My own dearest Henrietta, Wilson and our manservant, Ferdinando, were married yesterday. I am so vexed. Robert says you can't separate a man and his wife. But who's to sleep near our little boy in case he needs something in the middle of the night? But much worse, I am shocked and pained. Wilson is 4 months pregnant. Still, I try to think of her many excellent qualities. What she has done for me in affectionate service. April 9th, 1856. My ever dearest Arabelle, I have just bought my beautiful boy some exquisite Florentine velvet for an outfit. Everyone says he will look stunning. Robert disapproves of such effeminate finery and the expense. Bless you for sending the gorgeous ribbons. Perfect, really, for his new chapeau. November 22nd, 1856. My dearest sisters, I have been embroidering pretty little collars and velvet pantaloons with Girolama, the young Italian seamstress who lives across the street. A fair-haired military officer has been courting her. Seeing her attractive face as she sits at her open window. Here he comes now. She's smiling at him. He's smiling back. Seeing her stand, he realizes her body is normal size, her legs are not. Never again does a fair-haired officer come courting. Today, as we sat together sewing, I stroked poor Girolama's hair and said many kind words to her. Oh, how I love our quiet life here in Florence, with our circle of close friends. I could turn myself on my pillow and sleep on here till the end of my life. Robert prefers the lively social life of London and Paris. But in the evening, sitting together in our slippers over coffee in our drawing room, we say, "Oh, how delightful this is." Let's hope nobody comes tonight. You leave this world without a word to me. Like slamming a door in my face. I can't eat. I can't sleep. I tire easily. Spend hours on the sofa. The way Robert first saw me at 50 Winkle Street. Any physical movement triggers my depression. Once again, my lungs are acutely vulnerable. Looking back at these past 11 years, I see that my dear husband and I have been all the time walking over a torrent on a stroll. We spend winters now further south in Rome for my health. I remember once we choose the longest scenic route through Arezzo and Perugia. Yes, traveling 40 miles a day in a carriage. I am feeling better. Travel always lifts my spirits. Every 8 miles, we change horses, stopping at noon for a second breakfast of eggs, tea, coffee, and then continue our journey to evening, dine, and go straight to bed. I remember on the second day, while descending a mountain, one of our spirited horses begins to drag the other horse and our carriage over a steep precipice. Robert, what is happening? The coachman strains with all his might to control the rebellious animals. Annunziata leaps out of the tipping coach to open the door for us. Madonna mia, signora, discendere, discendere, avanti subito, signora, avanti! Oh, grazie a Dio, grazie a Dio. Then on the 5th day, more drama. Oxen teams are needed to haul our carriages up a mountain. You see, friends are traveling with us. But our two drivers soon get into a fight and one stabs the other. Robert, no! He rushes between them and is knocked to the ground. They are going to kill Papa. They are going to kill Papa, Mummy. Robert separates the combatants, establishing uneasy peace. Placid oxen again begin pulling our carriages slowly but steadily up the mountain. On the 7th day of our travels, we arrive in Rome for the winter to find sunny, comfortable rooms for our stay. We are all very happy and in very good spirits after our adventures, shall we say? One summer, back home in Casa Grande, the ferocious heat on some days reaches 102 degrees. On one such afternoon, Robert goes out walking near the cool of the Arno. But soon I hear his footsteps rushing up the stairs. Robert, what is it? You look so distressed. Tell me. What? Italy will remain dismembered. After all their struggle, no freedom from foreign domination. After this terrible blow to my hopes for the Italian people, I suffer violent palpitations. Robert is up every night soothing me through my coughing and my terrible political dreams. I recuperate slowly the rest of the summer in the more serene atmosphere of Siena. As winter approaches, we return to Rome, and there I find the letter I have been dreading. It's from Aragon. Henrietta. Dear Henrietta, dead. Cancer. Oh, that my weakness has prevented me from being with my sister during her last moments. The rest of that winter, I leave our rooms only to take a few short drives. I feel bruised and beaten, eat almost nothing. One afternoon, Robert and I discussed the future of our son. As soon as he began baby talk, our little boy called himself Panini. Now he prefers a more manly Pen. He is maturing quickly, 11 years old already. Robert is quite adamant. Pen can't continue wearing his Florentine velvet and sporting his long golden curls. But Robert, I do so wish to delay his manhood. May I remind you, Ma, when Pen was only 6 years old, threatened by a boy of 12, he doubled his small fist and proclaimed, "I will show you that I'm a boy. Ha!" Yes, he does plead with me. "Mummy, I want my long curls cut off and to wear hard leather boys' shoes." Robert, dearest, I promise you, at an appropriate time, after Pen turns 12, his golden locks will be shorn and sturdier shoes will be worn. I confess. The summer in Florence is once again suffocatingly hot. On most days, I must remain indoors. Indeed, I have little energy for much else. In the hot afternoons, I put on my dressing gown. Relief from the extreme heat. One day, I put my chair in the cross-straws of open windows for the cool breeze that springs up in the late afternoon. In the afternoon, Robert comes back with the latest political news. I think I have a sore throat. The next night, I have a cold. I sit up restlessly from the accumulation of phlegm. I have no power to cough up. In the middle of the night, my dear husband goes for Dr. Wilson. Darling, you do make a case of this. Dr. Wilson orders 2 prescriptions. I recover somewhat. He leaves at 5 a.m. saying the crisis is over. Thank you so much, Dr. Wilson. Each day, Robert carries me into the drawing room, where I sit in my white dressing gown. I read the newspapers a little, see no one, of course. I take some nourishment, clear soup, even Ox's milk several times. Dearest, do you know I not only have Ox's milk, but Ox's thoughts too? Yes, my mind seems to be wandering. doctor comes. I think. I faintly hear someone say to me, perhaps a little better. Yes. This is only one of my old attacks. I know all about them. I shall recover soon. Robert? Robert, darling. Your voice. Why so far away? Unfold your arms. Why ask me who you are? Of course, my Robert, my heavens, my beloved. God bless you.
Dearest Ba, are you comfortable?
Beautiful.
My ever dearest, dearest. Now, my beloved, you are with God, who takes from me the life of my life. But I know, one day I shall clasp again the soul of my soul, and with God be the rest.